I will call Councilmember Palmisano.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If I may, I'm not on this committee, but I have a question, perhaps for the authors, and then some comments. If the state legislature is already passing or has already passed a rate of $1.27 per mile, why is the city of Minneapolis passing the very same rate? Isn't it duplicative? Isn't that a double use of taxpayer money to monitor and adjudicate the same exact rate at the state level and then the city level?
Councilmember Allison.
I'll let the authors address that, but I do want to say it's not uncommon for us to have municipal laws that are in compliance with state laws or to match state laws so that we can have our own mechanisms of enforcement. I feel like that's pretty normal. It's something that we do on other items as well, probably less contentious, so less recognizable, but it's that doesn't strike me as particularly out of order or uncommon for how we might handle ordinances.
I appreciate that. I do see it as a little bit strange in a dynamic pricing and kind of environment. Usually we would say we follow state law, right? And that state law might increase over time. I doubt it would ever decrease over time. But regardless, the thousands of messages we've all received from residents who are concerned about Uber and Lyft's departure from Minneapolis, they were not asking members of this body to meet with lawmakers at the state to figure out which rates would be agreeable to their political agendas of this session. They were asking us to meet with Uber and Lyft to keep those particular rideshare companies in Minneapolis. That didn't happen. The rates that we have before us today, this 127 rate, was determined by a handful of state lawmakers and only 3 of the 13 total members of this body. These 3 council members don't have the authorization to go and speak on the city's behalf. They might have been invited to do so, but when I learned of this after the fact, that felt really backwards, and I have to name that. I was not told beforehand that these 3 council members were having a meeting, that we were sending anybody to the state, or who we would be meeting with to try to come up with one common rate. I like the idea of having a common rate, but how did it come to be that these 3 council members were authorized to go and negotiate on the city's behalf? That seems incredibly outside your role here. I would feel it's outside of my role. You don't speak for me, and how would you feel if I went to the state legislature and said I was there on behalf of the city making deals? Like, that on its face feels absurd. There's a falsehood here that the city came to an agreement. We're a governing body, all of us, and you're not authorized to go and negotiate in this way. So I feel there's a big problem here that goes beyond rideshare about democracy on the Minneapolis City Council. But also, importantly, and something I have to name here, is there is tremendous opportunity cost to this session and how this specific initiative has taken the place of all of our documented, approved legislative priorities. We haven't yet seen how this legislative session concludes. But we have significant needs as a city for things we all have agreed on, like red light cameras, funding for the Nicollet Bridge, stormwater tunnels, and several more pages that aren't having their due time this session, because so much time and energy has been spent trying to untangle the mess created by this specific ordinance. And those are things we agreed upon as a body. It's really important to say that. As far as I can tell, you've waylaid our House and our Senate majority leaders to spend incredible amounts of time on this, days. And I think there is a path forward here that ensures drivers are paid fairly and without disrupting these essential services for riders. I continue to support the rates that were informed by that study and acknowledge the different kinds of benefits that that wage study provides at different levels. And I think we could come to a true compromise, but it would have to be one that is agreeable to drivers and riders and TNC companies alike. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for allowing me to come to your committee and say what I needed to say.